Hello, today's God story is an amazing story. I mean, if I wouldn't have been there and taken notes, and if there weren't so many witnesses to it, I wouldn't believe it either. It's got to do with the Cumberland Boys Club. Let me give you a little bit of history on the Cumberland Boys Club. So Stan Port, buddy of mine from camp, Canadian Sunday School Mission, you hear lots about that in my other stories, was running the Cumberland Boys Club. Basically floor hockey in Cumberland. Now, Cumberland is a city in the halfway up Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. And Cumberland was back then considered a welfare type town. It was a poorer town. Comox Courtenay was where the military and the bankers like me and those kind of people lived. And we'd go out to Cumberland. Now the kids there, the only thing they knew about God was the swear word. So what happened is Stan ran it for a while, or not Stan, Stan ran it for a while. I came there in 78, helped Stan with it. He moved away in about 82. I took it over, ran it, and Don Beeler came in and helped me. And then I left in 84, and Don took it over. Now, let's forward 10 years into 94, and I was working on the road. And it was having a lot of trouble with what was going on the road and the politics and stuff going on there. Very depressing time. Anyway, God blessed me, and after much prayers, and of course my wife said, you either get yourself a real job, where you come home at night, or get a new wife. So God blessed me and allowed me to go back to Comox. Now, to me, going back to Comox was like going home. So when I went back and I moved back to Comox, I pulled up to the town, and the town had, at the beginning of town, there's this big old local steam engine locomotive. And I pulled over and I stopped there, and I love trains. You'll hear lots more about that. I love trains. I stopped there and I said, prayed to God, and I said, okay, God, thank you so much for bringing me back to my hometown, bringing me home. Whatever it is you want me to do, I'm willing to do. Now, in my mind, I was going to do in the church work. I was going to move from boys' clubs into men's ministry. So I knew it was going to happen. I barely really pulled into town, and Don Beeler phones me. Of course, he'd been running the club, Cumberland Boys Club, for 10 years. Hey, Daryl, how you doing? He says, you want to come help me Thursday night? I need some help Thursday night at the boys' club. I said, Don, get this straight right now. I didn't move back here. God didn't go to all this trouble to bring me back to Comox to work the Cumberland Boys Club. I says, I'm moving up in the ranks, so to speak, and I'm going to start a men's ministry instead. So, enough of that. Solved that problem. I knew I'd have to deal with it anyway, and I did. So a couple nights later, it was a Friday night, and I was staying at a friend's house because my wife hadn't moved down yet. We hadn't got our place. And the phone rang, and it's Leslie. It's Don's wife. And she says, Daryl, she says, Don's had a heart attack. And I go, oh, no, what can I do for you? And she says, can you run the Cumberland Boys Club? And I go, well, Leslie, I haven't ran it for 10 years. Don't you have a whole crew? You can't be running, 30, 40 kids in a floor hockey boys club type thing without more help. She says, yes, we do it. I phoned all of them. She says, the first guy I phoned, his mom just died, and he's got to go back to Montreal to look after his mom. The second guy I phoned, he just lost his job, and he's going up to the oil fields to work in the oil patch. And so on and so on and so on. Every one of the helpers was gone. Well, what do you say to a friend's wife who's, your friend's had a heart attack, he's in the hospital, and she's distressed? Don't worry, Leslie. I'll look after it. I got it. Don't worry about it. Okay, so I'm sitting there on the floor, and I'm reading the newspaper, getting caught up on what's been going on in the community since I left, and wondering, how are we going to do this, God? I got no helpers. They're all gone. I said, I got to run the boys club. I haven't ran for 10 years, and it doesn't make sense. I said, so here's the deal, God. If you want me to run it, here's what I need. I need 5 helpers. I need 5 guys that can come alongside me and help. Oh, and by the way, one of them has to have his St. John's ambulance emergency thing, because you've got to have that if you're running, those type of organizations. So I'm flipping through the paper, and I'm going, the biggest problem I had, of course, was, getting guys from the churches to come out and help me, because when we used to do it back when I was with Stan, I said we'd go to all the churches and talk about it and try to get guys to come out, but the good Christian gentlemen in the churches in Comox and Courtenay, they'd come out to the perceived rough Cumberland club, and they wouldn't come back because it was just a little bit too rough. I remember one time, there's a kid pulled a knife on one of these guys, and the little kids are 6, 7, 8 years old, right? So we're being tough, and so the guy goes to Stan. And Stan was an old camp cook, and no nonsense. So the guy, the kid pulled a knife on me when I gave him a penalty. And so Stan says, well, did you take the knife away from him? And well, we never saw that guy again. And anyway, that's kind of the thing we're dealing with. But I just saw them as kids. But I thought, Lord, how are we going to get help? I mean, I go to any one of these churches that I know, and they've been there, done that, not going there. So I'm flipping through the paper, and here's this ad in the middle of the paper, and it's a new church opening up. Alliance Church going to open up. They don't even have a church building yet. They're going to open up in the college auditorium. I go, oh, that's perfect. I circle that, and I'll go there and see if I can find the guys. So I go there Sunday morning, and I go in and say hi to a few people and sit down in the front row there, and I grab up my little notepad here like this and my pen, and I go, okay, God, here's the deal. And we talked about it. I need 5 guys. One of them has to have his emergency thing. I'll sit here, and you bring in the guys, tell me who I should have. And so the pastor's standing there by the door, and he's greeting people. Hi, I'm Miss Dave, and first guy comes in, and he's loud and, friendly and boisterous and energetic. And I go, wow, there's the best guy for the club. So I'm listening, and Dave goes, hi, Frank. And I write Frank down. And he says, how you doing, Pastor Dave? And I write Dave down. And God says, I never told you to write those names down. He says, first of all, Dave's just starting a new church up. He'll support you, but he's too busy to be doing that, so don't use him. And as far as Frank goes, no, he's not your man. I said, oh, well, God, are you sure here? I mean, look at this guy. I mean, he's right age, lots of energy, which I need. He's loud, which you need in the gym when you're playing floor hockey. I says, are you sure? And he said, no, not Frank. Okay, stroke Dave off, stroke Frank off. Give me the names. So as the guys came in and introduced themselves to the pastor, they said hi and what have you. Got some names, some no. So got 4 names. Church starts, prayer, a couple of hymns, what have you. And then all of a sudden, the door opens and the pastor stops. He was singing, he stops us singing. Stop. And he looks over and this guy walks and says, well, hello, Paul. So glad you could join us today. Now, you'd have to know Dave. He could say something like that and get away with it and actually be enduring himself to it. He says, here we got a seat right here with this new guy. What's your name? Daryl. So Paul comes over and says, I get choked up at this point every time I tell this story. So God says, that's your man. That's your, yeah, I get choked. That's your key man. I'm looking at him going, he's not looking like a key man to me, Lord. He's looking pretty rough shape. Anyway, so I go, well, now what do I do? So I go to these 5 guys after church and say, hey, God's been talking to me. Doo-doo. You guys come work the Cumberland Boys Club for me. And I'm going, how is this going to work? So just with that, the pastor announced, he says, on Tuesday, we're starting a men's ministry. He says, it's going to be a breakfast at this whatever restaurant. He said, so anybody interested, come on out. And I go, that's the place. Okay. So I go Tuesday. I'm all excited. I get there early. I set up a table. I move it quite a way away from where everybody else is. I put it there, and I had 6 chairs. So I got 3 on one side, 3 on the other side. Put my coat on one chair on the far side, and I say, okay, God, here's the deal. You're God. You can handle this. You're big enough. I says, I need all those 5 guys that you gave me the names of. I haven't talked to yet. I need them to sit at this table. Versus there was about 30 guys showed up. I said, I'm not going to solicit them. I'm going to stand. My coat's there, but I'm not going to stay there. I'll be way over here. I'm going to be out of sight. Nobody will see me. And let's see what happens. Sure enough, they all come in. They sit down and whatever it is. And sure enough, everybody sits down. Frank comes in. He's talking to me. And really good, that kind of stuff. And Frank sits down right across the table from me. Oh, yeah, one thing I didn't tell you. I said, so one thing I told God before anybody got there. I says, so one other thing. I said, if Paul is my key man, I need Paul. I'll sit right here. I need Paul to sit right across from me on that chair right there. I says, Paul. And then we're on. You know what? And if it doesn't happen, I'm just going to go there Thursday morning. I'm going to post a thing on the door and saying, sorry, due to circumstances, the club is closed till further notice. So they all come in and everybody sits down. And what happens, of course, Frank, no, not Frank, sits in the chair where Paul's supposed to be. I don't see Paul anywhere. So we start eating and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, I go, well, Lord, it's not looking good. All of a sudden, Frank jumps up, literally knocks his chair over, and he goes, oh, no. He says, I'm supposed to take my wife Gerda to the doctor this morning. I better go or I'm going to be in so much trouble. So he tears out of the restaurant, wings open the door, knocks the guy down on his back on the floor, reaches down to pick him up and said, "Paul, so sorry about that." He says, "But I left a seat there for you, this one right across from that new guy, Daryl." So we did, yeah. Told the guys the story, and everybody was in. And we ran a most amazing boys club. It was phenomenal what all happened there. I hear more about it in other stories of how it grew in God's grace that He gave us. I said, but the biggest thing here is, I wish life was always that easy, and how God provides when we listen and follow His will.